Hi guys. As you can see, I'm multitasking a bit because somebody doesn't want to take a nap. So I didn't want to put this off any longer than necessary. Um, what I'm going to do is, or what I have done, is gone through the um, first PowerPoint message board, and I took note of the questions that you guys had, and there's a lot of overlap in some instances. So what I've done is come up with my responses, and instead of typing them all out individually, I decided I would do it in this format, especially since there may have been questions that maybe you thought of after the board closed. And also, I think it's important that everybody hear these responses because um, you can't respond back on the board, and you may have had this question, and like I said, didn't think of it until later. So, with that in mind, one question that came up was about stretching an assignment. And my response to that is if you have ample evidence to back up your points, you won't need to stretch anything. I was the queen of fluffing things. I would come up with ridiculous ways to stretch out an assignment to make it fit page lengths. I changed fonts, I changed font sizes, I changed margins, I made things up. I had the world's most ridiculous paragraphs ever. What are you doing? And if you've got ample evidence to back your points up, you won't need to do all of that. No, thank you. As far as the first sentence of your introduction, while questions are a good way to hook your reader, you're right, that can get stale. Usually it will depend on your purpose and audience. Facts, statistics, stating or refuting common beliefs, song lyrics, which was my go-to in college, were all ways to kick off your intro and get your reader's attention. There's a lot of examples in the orange strategies section of the Norton Field Guide. I can't think of page numbers offhand, but that will definitely be of benefit to you. The length of your intro versus the length of the essay. There were plenty of times when I submitted a 5 or 6 page essay with a 2-sentence intro and passed, sometimes barely. And I can't believe I was never called out on those wink introductions. Good verb, thank you. And it is proportionate. So if you're writing a 2 or 3 page essay, then just a few sentences will suffice. If you're writing something longer, you're going to need a more substantial introduction. And this will come up in the conclusions PowerPoint if you haven't got there yet, that the same can be said for your conclusion. You think of your intro and your conclusion as your bookends to your essay. If you have books on a bookshelf and they're not well supported on either side by strong bookends, that row of books is going to topple over. Same thing for your essay. If you don't have a strong intro or conclusion, then all of your hard work in the middle there is going to be weakened because of it. As far as writing your intro differently, it depends on your assignment, your purpose, your tone, and your audience. Rhetorical circumstances will dictate your writing behavior. If the piece is short and informal and aimed at your peers, your intro will be short and conversational. If it's an 8-page research paper, your intro will be several sentences of varied length, sometimes 8 to 10. It really depends, and use more formal language. As far as topic interest goes, there technically is an audience for every subject. What will make your writing successful is your ability to hold your reader's attention. Hook them early using interesting and relevant examples, and be respectful for all sides, and you'll have a really strong piece. I will admit that thesis writing is a pain in the ass. It's something I struggle with every time I write. It's something that will largely come with practice. And what helps is to have a working thesis. So don't get so caught up in writing the perfect thesis right off the rip, because it won't be perfect. Just as your whole essay won't be perfect the first shot, your thesis won't be either. And as you go through the drafting and revision process, this is where the outside feedback becomes really important. And a couple of things can happen. You may find that your thesis will change as you write. The info that you find will dictate a lot of what you include, and can alter your original plan for the assignment. An example that I use all the time is a project I worked on in college. We had a clear and specific idea of what we wanted to research, and that was ending or diminishing funding for space research. And the more we got into it, the more we realized the benefits of it. And by the end of the semester, because it was a semester-long project, we were on board with funding missions to Mars. So it's amazing what you can learn from your information, and that changed our thesis. As well, input from others, classmates, teachers, family members, the guy in the bus, whomever reads your piece will have their own perspective and can give you new perspective on how to write your assignment. As far as the infamous slide 29 goes, and the thesis statement being too broad, it's too broad for a couple reasons. One, in an essay, can you really cover every meaning for every person? And likewise, can you cover every culture? Your thesis will identify what specifically you'll be covering in your essay, and to have one that's too broad, like the one on slide 29, you're leaving your essay open to being as long as War and Peace, when just a few pages will suffice. As for the broadness of the thesis versus your audience, and your audience versus the author, in part the audience plays into much of your writing, just as tone and purpose. However, deviating beyond a specific point can confuse your reader. Even we've all been the Would you relax? We've all been the unwitting participant in the I've got to tell you this story to tell you that story situation, or oh, that story reminds me. I'm guilty of it. You all have been guilty of it, I'm sure, at some point. By keeping your thesis very specific versus broad, like the one on slide 29, it will help rein in those kinds of moments. Also, we live in a drive-through Instagram, high-speed Wi-Fi kind of culture right now, and long, and rambling, no matter how useful or imaginative you get, will make your reader yawn and wonder what your main point is. Hopefully I haven't committed any of these sins in this video, and I apologize for having Kiddo here with me, but somebody is refusing our nap today, so she's putting in a cameo, and no, we don't always match. This was just a terrible coincidence. Would you just chill already? Okay, so hopefully I've answered your questions as far as those posted on the first PowerPoint board here. If you have any further questions, feel free to post on one of the forums or send me an email. All right, stay dry today.